Okay, about a third, not even, about a fifth of the room. Who here heard that from the county executive? Who here heard that from a member of the legislative majority that voted for this plan as part of the budget? Okay, who here heard it from me? Okay, a bunch of people. The point is that something this important should, if it's what the county executive says it is, a great cost-saving measure, the wave of the future, privatization and public-private partnership, and it's really a great idea, and public companies, public utilities can't operate economically. They're so inefficient that a private company at the same price can not only run the sewage treatment plants, not only pay off the debt and improve and make the capital improvements, but they can make a profit all at the same rate and at the same time pay $850 million to the county as an upfront payment. And they're going to do all of this, the $850 million payment, almost $1 billion, continue making improvements, operate the infrastructure and the plants, and make a profit without you paying a cent more. If you who believes that? I mean, really, who believes that? The $850 million payment itself is based on an analysis that Morgan Stanley did that has to be an analysis of rate increases over a course of time to pay back that money. That money is an amortized value of rate increases in today's value for rate increases over time, with an assumption that the basic money we pay now would allow the company to make a profit, continue to operate the plants, and make any improvements. Now, without even talking about improvements, let's talk about the finances. We discovered that the county was looking at had hired Morgan Stanley. According to the 4-year Nassau County budget that was filed in September 2011, it said the county hired Morgan Stanley in February 2010. No one knew it, not even a legislator. Apparently, Morgan Stanley was working from February 2010 to September 2011 for a contract that was less than $25,000, according to the deputy county executive for budget, Tim Sullivan. He said he'll shortly get a contract. I said after election day? He said probably. Of course it was after election day in 2011. In December, the Rules Committee got a contract to hire Morgan Stanley to keep working with the county to ensure that a public-private partnership can be accommodated for the sewage treatment plants. And they'd be working starting in October 2011 for $100,000 a quarter through December 2012, and then they get $5 million if the deal is completed. Now, when that finally went to the Rules Committee of the Legislature, the Rules Committee, without surprise, passed it 4-3 with the presiding officer saying, I hate that you're giving us these contracts in December for backdated money that we have to pay back to October. Don't bring us anything like that ever again, but we'll pass it. The Nassau Interim Finance Authority rejected it for 2 reasons. Number one, they said, if you bid this, and the county executive was saying, yes, we bid it, well then, it's not a personal service contract if it was bid, so then it should go through the full legislature, not just the Rules Committee. They also said, but if you did bid it, that bid's a 1.5 years old. If you didn't bid it, why didn't you bid it? NIFA rejected the contract. So then the county decided that, according to NIFA, they have to rebid this contract. So who do you think would win the bid? If Morgan Stanley's been doing this work all along anyway, it was obvious that Morgan Stanley's been doing this work, I would say, for more than the $25,000. They want this quarterly fee. And the good news for Morgan Stanley, not so good for us, is what a surprise, Morgan Stanley won the bid. And the same way, in 3 days' notice, Morgan Stanley's contract was put on the Rules Committee agenda in December. It's being put back on the Rules Committee agenda in April, and we got about 3 days' notice. So who's being locked out? You. If it's such a good idea, let's debate it. If it's such a good idea, let's have a legislative hearing. Who here remembers the Long Island bus situation last year? If that was a great idea, the part of the problem was we never had any hearings about it until it was a contract where every legislator felt like it was a fait accompli at that point. Try to get the best deal possible, because if you rejected the Veolia contract at that point, you had no Long Island bus and you had no private operator. My concern is the same here. By the time we finally get a deal in 12 or 13, how badly off is our sewage treatment facilities going to be? The Sewer and Stormwater Authority, for years after it was created in '04, was running with a surplus and cash reserves were built up. And then for years, cash reserves were being utilized because it began running at a deficit. In 2010, Tim Sullivan, same Tim Sullivan, said the deficit was about $5 million, but he said it was going to grow to 20 and then 40 million over the next few years. So you need to operate the Sewer and Stormwater Authority in the black, not in the red. So the idea was you didn't want to increase taxes. By the way, does anyone know what you pay in taxes for the Sewer and Stormwater Authority? What do you pay, Tom?
About $185.
About $185 a year. For $185 a year, you have your sewage treatment completely handled. You have a tremendous asset, one of the few assets that Nassau County has that attracts developers. A developer for Yaphank out in Suffolk, which is a big development they're looking at, there's no sewers, they can't use a cesspool anymore, they can't dump untreated sewage into their backyard anymore, into a cesspool. They have to come up with like a local sewage treatment facility for their development. In Nassau, with all the high taxes, but with the positive of being close to New York City, another positive for any developer, for anything in the hub area, is you can, at a low rate, tie into sewer district number 3 or one of the sewage treatment plants. It's a way that we can attract businesses. Now, if that tax went up a bit to balance it, I don't know that we would even notice it. But the idea of the administration was to tax, they called it a fee, the tax exempt entities, your school districts, your fire departments, your 401c3s, your universities, those tax exempt organizations, it was felt by the administration, we should charge them to use the sewers because they don't pay for the sewers. I personally voted against it and said it's illegal, because if everyone pays a user fee and only taxable entities, us and corporations, pay a tax, similar to what happens with public water, where everyone pays a very small user fee and a small tax, but the not-for-profits just pay the user fee, then it would be legal. But what happened here was you were saying all of us pay a tax, and the tax exempts will pay a fee. So what did the court say? The court actually issued an injunction to prevent the county from imposing this fee, because they said a fee only on tax exempts is not a fee at all, it's a tax. What happened to the Sewer and Stormwater Authority? 2011, we predicted 20 million to the budget. We didn't get that 20 million, we used the reserves for another 20. This year we're going to use the reserves for 40 because we're not getting this toilet tax or toilet fee, whatever you want to call it. Instead of it, so I asked Tim Sullivan at the last budget review, what are we going to do to balance that budget in the Sewer and Stormwater Authority? Says we don't have to worry about it, we'll wait to see what the court says, but even if the court doesn't rule, we'll keep using reserves until we complete the public-private partnership. To me, that's almost forcing the issue on the public-private partnership. Now, what's the concern here? We're left in the dark. We're left in the dark. This deal is moving forward, and you know that our rates will have to go up to pay for it. There's just no other way. Just follow the numbers. And what do we do with 865